The silent auction of your deepest regrets. Episode 4. We bought Mom's regret. He woke before the alarm again. The thin blue light through the blinds drew stripes across the small bedroom and the worn carpet. The apartment was quiet except for the refrigerator hum and a distant bus brake sighing down the street. On the nightstand, next to Angela Brooks's phone and a glass of water, lay an envelope that had not been there when she slept. He watched her blink herself awake and see it. He watched tired become alert in one heartbeat. She sat up, rubbed her eyes, and touched the paper like it might be warm. The envelope was cream, thick, with her name Angela Brooks written in dark, exact ink. There was no return address, no stamp, no logo. Just her name. He watched her slide a thumb under the flap and open it. Inside was a single line. Room 3B, parent registration, 7 p.m. He saw the way her mouth tightened. She had 2 children, and the word registration made a tired nervousness rise in her chest. Money, paperwork, some new rule. She checked the school app on her phone and found nothing. She checked her email. Nothing. She sat still, looking at the clock. And then the day pulled her up by the wrists and made her move. "Caleb," she called down the hall. "Where's your inhaler?" "In my backpack," he called. "Lily, sock." "I can't find it, Mom." He watched the usual breakfast dance. Cereal, milk, a spill, a paper towel, a permission slip signed against the counter corner, a kiss on 2 foreheads, a raised voice, a sorry whispered, the door opening on cold air, and the sound of the school bus squealing to a stop. Her hands always moved, even when her mind was still chewing on something. The envelope lay where she'd left it. He could see her look at it again before she wrapped her scarf and stepped into the hall. All day, the paper waited in her mind, like a word she could not recall. She told a co-worker she might be late the next morning. She told herself the school had sent a letter by mistake. But at 6:20 p.m., she put on her coat, put the envelope in her pocket, and left for the school. He had seen another envelope in another place last night. He had watched a man named Darius Cole open a leather ledger down in Archive C. He had watched names write themselves and dots appear like periods at the end of lives. The last name on that page had formed as Darius stared. Jones, Derek, 0611. The line below had been blank, waiting for the next admission. The system did not stop when one ledger closed. It just turned the page. The school was nearly dark. Only emergency lights glowed. The halls were the halls she knew, but quieter, like the building held its breath. Outside room 3B, the little painted bees on the wall looked too bright under the weak light. The door stood open. Inside, a candle already burned. He watched Angela step into a classroom that had lost its color. In place of the round rug and bins of picture books stood rows of small chairs arranged toward a wooden table. On the table, a single candle, a gavel, and a thick black ledger. The air smelled like dust and a floor cleaner and wax. People sat in the chairs, men and women, all shades, all ages, dressed in careful clothes that did not tell you anything. Each held a dark wooden paddle on their lap. The paddles had no numbers. Near the front stood a figure in a gray suit and thin wire mask. The tone was soft and warm when he spoke. The voice was the kind that could explain a terrible thing and make it sound like an old rule. "Angela Brooks," the auctioneer said. "Welcome. Please take your seat." There was one empty chair in the second row. A paddle rested there. Her name was burned into it, Angela Brooks. The letters were shallow but clear, as if a careful hand had pressed them into the wood years ago. "I don't understand," she said. "I got a letter about registration." "This is registration," the auctioneer replied. "For what?" "For your place," he said, "and your children's place, if it comes to that." She turned to leave. The door did not move. She took a breath she hoped would be braver than it was, and sat. He could see the way her hands shook as they closed over the paddle. The candle flame leaned toward the ledger, listening. "Tonight," the auctioneer said, opening the book, "we offer Remorse, Lot 21. He saw the page, neat, hand-drawn lines, the headline Admissions Next, and below it a name already written in black ink, Caleb Brooks. Angela flinched like someone had slapped her. Her son was 11, small for his age, fast to apologize, afraid of crowds. His asthma made him careful. "Age 11, the auctioneer said calmly. "First regret? The playground fall?" "No," Angela said, shaking her head. "No, he was not at fault." "Regret is not fault," the auctioneer said. "It is weight." A woman in the front lifted her paddle. 20. A man lifted his. 40. Another voice, bored. 60. "Stop," Angela said, standing. "Stop. You can't buy things out of my son." The woman in the front did not look at her. "We can buy regrets," she said. "It helps." "It helps who?" "Everyone," the woman replied. "It takes the weight away." "From him?" Angela asked, desperate for one piece of good. "Yes," the woman said kindly. "From him." The auctioneer raised his eyebrows gently. 90, 100? A man in a navy coat lifted his paddle. 100. The gavel came down soft. The candle tipped a fraction and righted. "Sold," the auctioneer said. "What did you do?" Angela asked the woman in front, grabbing the woman's sleeve. "What did you buy?" The woman turned, and her eyes were gray and gentle like someone who had learned to do hard things at a distance. "He will not carry that guilt anymore," she said. "He will not wake with a heavy chest because of it. He will not see that day in his dreams." "And me?" Angela asked. "Do I stay in that memory?" The woman paused. "Regret is a thread. When you pull one, more comes with it." "Tell me," Angela said, voice caught. "Please." "He will not remember you were there." Angela left without saying goodbye. He watched the classroom door open for her this time, easy, like the building had found its manners. She ran, keys cutting her palm, and drove too fast and did not get pulled over. She told herself she had time to fix this if she got home soon enough. She told herself if she held him, the memory would stitch back. She told herself loud, kind lies, and the lies cracked as she said them. In the bedroom down the hall, the boy slept with his mouth open and his hair pointing everywhere. The inhaler lay on the windowsill. She touched his shoulder. "Caleb," she whispered. He blinked awake, smiled, then saw her face and grew careful. "What's wrong?" She swallowed. "Do you remember the day at the playground? When Eli fell and broke his wrist?" He frowned. "Eli broke his wrist?" "He fell from the jungle gym," she said. "You were there. You ran to him first. You called me. You cried so hard you couldn't breathe. Caleb shook his head slowly. I remember a fall. I don't remember you there. She sat. I held you in the ER, she said. You blamed yourself. I told you it wasn't your fault. He looked at her with a polite sadness that did not match his years. Are you sure I called you, Mom? She pressed the heel of her hand into her chest to stop the panic rising. I was there, she said. I remember it. He nodded as if it were kind of her to think so. He turned his head and fell back to sleep as if a weight had rolled off him. She walked to the kitchen and leaned her forehead against the fridge, and the cold tin made her teeth ache. She stayed there until the hum of the motor seemed to say, "Raise it," in a voice with no mouth. In the morning, Lily padded in with her blanket and climbed into her lap. Lily looked like the boy had looked when he was small, same eyes, same open face. Mom, she said, why are you crying? Bad dream, Angela said. Do you want my blanket? Angela nodded. She wrapped the small square around her shoulder and told herself it would be okay. And when she said okay, she felt the shape of the word become hollow in her mouth. 2 days later, another envelope arrived. Cream paper, her name, no stamp. Inside, one line. Lot 22. The brother. She stood in the hallway with her back against the door and read the line again. The air had a cold center. The word brother hurt her in the side, below the ribs, exactly where fear makes you ache when you try to stand too fast. She picked Lily up from kindergarten and did not tell anyone where they were going. She drove to a big bright store with wide aisles and noise and people who did not know about candles and paddles and black books. She bought apples, milk, a new set of markers Lily did not need. She kept looking at the boy as he walked a few steps ahead. He did not look back to check if she was following the way he always had. At bedtime, she sat on the floor between their rooms. Lily hummed to herself, and her small hand dragged a crayon slowly across paper. The boy turned pages of a book and checked the corner of the room as if making sure the empty corner stayed empty. When she stood to turn off lights, her phone buzzed. No number, just a small white dot where digits should be. A text, room 3B, 7 p.m. She went. Inside, the same chairs, the same candle, the same faces, the same soft hush as someone you love is put in front of strangers. On the table sat a small wooden box. In it, a photograph of her children stood upright like an item in a catalog. Lily held a ribbon in the picture and laughed at the camera. The boy's hand blurred in the picture because he had been moving, because he never stayed still when he loved something. Lot 22, the auctioneer said. The brother. Her mouth went dry. No, please don't pull that thread. A paddle lifted. 20, another. 40, another. 80. What are you buying? She asked the room. Relief, someone said. From who? From everyone, the someone said. Do not be selfish. Guilt is heavy for a child. The word selfish made something twist in her. She raised her paddle. 100. The man down the row did not turn his head. 200. The auctioneer smiled without teeth. Do I hear 3? She stood. 300. Silence pressed down. The candle leaned and then stood straight. The auctioneer lifted the gavel. A small voice behind her said, 400. She turned. The boy stood in the doorway, in socks, His face had a blankness to it that did not mean calm. He was holding his own hands in front of his chest so he would not fidget. The paddle in his right hand was tiny, like a toy, like a favor at a party. But her name was burned on it, not his. 400, he said again, eyes on the candle. On what grounds? The auctioneer asked gently. I don't want to remember her crying, the boy said. I don't want to remember feeling like that. The gavel fell. Sold. The room exhaled. The candle went on burning as if nothing had happened. Angela moved toward him through water. Caleb, she said, the name coming out like a piece of glass in her tongue. She's your sister. He looked at her as if from the end of a long hallway. I know the word, he said carefully. He looked past her at the photo. I want the weight gone. He left before she could answer. His feet made no sound on the old tile. The next morning, Lily colored on the kitchen floor. Can you play with me? She asked the boy. He opened a cabinet and stood looking at cans. I need to find the soup, he said. Don't you want to draw a dog? The boy turned like someone had tapped him and asked him to identify a sound. I don't like drawing, he said. You did yesterday, she said simply. He frowned, polite. I don't think so. Angela watched the space between them, a space that used to be small. It had become a doorway with locks the child could not see. Lily pressed the blue crayon too hard and it broke. She held both pieces and did not cry. That afternoon, at school pickup, a mother asked how the kids were. Angela smiled and said fine. Her voice had started to learn a new thing, how to make the shape of fine with no air behind it. At home, the mail slot clicked. The envelope lay on the floor, cream on gray. She did not pick it up right away. She knew by then that the paper would feel warmer than it should. Inside, one line, Lot 23, the mother. She said the words out loud to a room with no one in it. She put the line on the table. She sat on the couch and did not move for a long time, as if the stillness of her body could keep the print on the page from becoming a sound in the room beyond. When she stood, she went to the children's room and watched them sleep. Lily dreamed with her mouth open, babyish still. The boy lay stiff, hands on his stomach, like he had decided how to be stone. She touched his hair. He did not flinch. He did not lean in. He did not remember leaning. Room 3B was too small for the next thing. The letter did not send her there. It did not send her anywhere. It said only Lot 23. The mother. And her feet took her to the edge of the river, where an old brick building with a missing window blinked at the water. Others arrived one by one, paddles tucked beneath coats, faces set to the same blank that keeps crowds polite. Inside, the warehouse looked like the classroom without the pretense. Rows of chairs, candle, ledger, gavel, stage, shadows gathered in corners like people who had learned to listen without being seen. Lily stood to the left of the table, small hands folded, eyes unfocused, like a child waiting to be told to say her line. Her hair was too tidy for how she liked to be. Her socks did not match because Angela had not found the match, because the basket in the hall had swallowed the better sock whole, because homes are made of small lost things. Angela touched her daughter's cheek. Lily blinked slowly. Baby, Angela said, do you know me? I know a lot of people, Lily said carefully, as if taking a test. The auctioneer looked at the ledger and turned the page with a rhythm anyone could learn, and no one should. Lot 23, he said. The mother. Paddles rose. It sounded like fabric moving. That small sound carried more certainty than shouts. 10, 20, 50, 80, 100. Angela lifted her paddle. Her voice broke on the number. 200. The room did not make a sound of surprise. It did not make a sound of anything. The candle's light seemed to thin and thicken as if breathing. A man in a gray sweater lifted his paddle. 300. Another. 500. She could feel the air leaving her chest in long strings. 1,000. Silence collected. The auctioneer lifted the gavel. He said, "Do we have higher?" The boy's voice came from the back, small and flat. 4,000. Caleb did not hold a paddle. He did not need to. He stood with his hands at his sides. The front of his shirt was wrinkled. He looked like he had slept sitting up. "On what terms?" the auctioneer asked gently. "I don't want to remember having a mother," the boy said. Angela did not feel the room move. She did not hear crying. She did not hear her own voice. She thought if she could put her hand through the boy's chest, she would find wires and be able to reattach something that had come loose when she was asleep and could not hear. The gavel fell. "Sold," the auctioneer said brightly, like a clerk who has learned how to keep time. Angela reached for the boy and caught air. He walked past without turning his head. Lily followed the person who led her away. Neither child looked back, because the brain is a careful organ. It trims what it cannot keep. The auctioneer leaned toward Angela and spoke like someone offering a glass of water. "You can bid next time," he said. "You are registered now." He set a box at her feet. Inside, a paddle lay under a strip of tissue. Her name burned the wood vein by vein. Angela Brooks, payment pending. She went home alone with an object that had her name and no heat in it. The rooms recognized her at first, then less. The couch dent did not look like her anymore. The dishes in the drying rack were too clean to have been used by a home with children. She opened the bedroom door and smelled dust and the after scent of shampoo that belonged to no one at the moment. She sat on the floor in the hallway between the two small beds and listened to the apartment tell her what it always told her. Keep moving. She did not move. At 2:10 a.m., the phone buzzed. Unknown. She let it stop. It buzzed again. She answered and did not speak. A voice she had not heard but already recognized spoke with the same careful calm as the warehouse. "Angela Brooks," the auctioneer said. "We are pleased to welcome you to our bidders." "I didn't bid," she said. "I begged." "It sounds similar," he said. "I don't want to be part of you," she said. "You are part of everything that can be traded," he replied. "You live in a world, Angela. The world has markets. We are the place you come when you want to stop carrying what is too heavy to carry alone. I don't want to stop carrying it." "Then you will carry it," he said kindly. She cried in a way that did not make sound. The body learns how to do that when children sleep, even when they do not sleep here anymore. "Do not worry," he said softly. "Memory is elastic. What is stretched can stretch again, not back to what it was, but enough. I want my children back." "They are not gone," he said. "They walked into a different path. They will walk into many. You will see them again." "You mean I will see them, and they will not see me?" she said. Yes, he said. That is one kind of seeing. The line went quiet as a room when someone hangs up and the other person holds the phone anyway. In a circle of light on the kitchen table, the paddle sat with its carved letters. She turned it over and found no number, just the shape of her hands marked in oil. The refrigerator hummed. The apartment's thin pipes popped as a neighbor woke and showered on a different schedule. She put the paddle in the box, closed the lid, and pressed her hands on top of it, like holding the top of a coffin you could still open. Her phone buzzed again. One message from a dot where a number should be. Ledger admits at dawn. She did not want to know what that meant, and knew anyway. The man in the hospital basement turned a safe dial and lifted a leather cover and pressed a stamp that said, "Admitted." Another name wrote itself. The pencil lines under the headline, "Admissions," next waited for ink, like dry earth waits for rain. At 6:11 a.m., far from her apartment, a man named Derek lifted a lid from a small wooden box on his stoop and saw "Sold" burned into the wood. He picked up a paddle with his name. He touched the warm letters as if warmth were proof of kindness. He went inside, holding something that had never belonged to him, now belonged only to him and everyone who knew how to find him. The system was made to keep moving. It did not matter where any one person tried to plant their feet. She texted a number that used to belong to Marcus Hill because the message she had seen last night after the warehouse, just a flash and a sudden waking, had shown his name. The text did not send. The phone returned a small note. Not in service. She typed it again. The phone showed the same response and did not explain itself. She wrote down both of her children's names on a piece of paper and taped it to the wall above the kitchen table. She wrote her name under theirs and taped it there too. She stood and looked at the three names. Lily, Caleb, Angela. And she said them out loud and wondered which letters would slide first. The days that followed did not look like a movie. They looked like a routine with a thread removed. The boy still walked to school. He still did homework. He still remembered where he left his inhaler. But when the girl told a joke, he looked at her like she had performed near him, and he could not quite hear the words. The girl still sang in the back seat. She still asked for another story. But when the boy stood up too fast and coughed, she looked for a teacher. In the grocery store, a woman Angela had known for 4 years said, "You look tired," and then said, "Do you still live in the building on Greer?" And then said, "I thought you moved?" And then said, "No, that can't be right." And then turned her head slightly as if 2 songs had started playing at the same time. In the night, the apartment changed by inches. A photograph on the shelf turned its frame a degree. A school painting lost a corner of crayon sun where the tape curled. The dent her daughter's small foot had made in a cheap pillow smoothed itself overnight. The couch cushion where the boy used to throw himself face first after school held its shape. She learned to put her hand to the wall when the world in her head and the world in front of her did not agree. She learned to whisper "you were here" to the empty places in rooms. She learned to wrap the paddle in an old shirt that had her smell so she could hold the shirt and not the wood. She had one friend she trusted, a woman who held a baby at church and had once said the right thing when Angela said the wrong thing. Angela told her everything and watched the friend's face change from concern to carefulness to the blankness of someone being kind when they are deciding how to step back. The friend said, "You should see someone," and meant a doctor. The friend said, "You're not sleeping?" and meant this is grief. Angela said, "It is not grief like you are picturing," and meant it is a machine. On the third night, the text came again from the dot where numbers should be. "It's your turn next time." She typed, "For what?" A second message arrived. To buy. A third lot 24, the neighbor's child. She closed her eyes. She saw a boy down the hall who kicked his door because he did not know what to do with noise. She saw a girl 2 floors below with braids who sang in the stairwell because elevators scared her. She saw the way the machine would ask her to move weight from here to there like moving boxes in a storage unit when rent goes up. She pressed the back of her head to the cool window glass and let the city sounds press through. He returns because the world of the auction wants witnesses as much as it wants sums. He watches her walk to the warehouse under a sky the color of damp paper. He watches her stand at the edge of the crowd and hold the paddle as if it is both a weapon and a truce. He watches the candle, the ledger, the gavel, the people who keep the night neat. "Angela Brooks," the auctioneer says warmly. "Welcome back." "It is not a welcome," she says. "It is gravity." "Gravity is a kind of welcome," he says. He turns the page. The top line reads, "Admissions. Next." Below, black ink writes itself, a name she knows from a mailbox near hers. She lifts her paddle and lowers it and lifts it again and decides not to let the word neighbor change the math. She bids like a person who has already lost the most important thing and will not practice losing by doing nothing. When the gavel falls, the candle's flame bends toward the ledger and then stands straight, and the room exhales like rooms do that are used to exhaling. On the walk home, she checks her phone out of habit and not because she expects kindness. A new message waits. The dot is patient. "You asked about Marcus Hill." 3 words fill in after a pause. He's hosting. Under it, one more message arrives, and the shape of the words is a key turned in a lock she is not sure she wants opened. Episode 5. The Buyer. She stops on the empty block and puts one hand to the brick wall to steady a world that does not promise to steady itself. She looks up at a sky that does not look back. She holds the paddle under her coat so the wood keeps whatever heat people can keep. In the hospital basement, a clerk who used to be only a clerk presses a stamp that says "admitted" over a name that just wrote itself. In the classroom that is sometimes a warehouse and sometimes a room with bees painted on the wall, a page turns to show ready lines. In apartments all over the city, white envelopes wait for mornings when hands are empty. She unlocks her door. The apartment breathes a small sound. She tapes a new paper to the wall with the names Lily and Caleb and Angela, and she adds one more under them so she can make a vow with ink. "I will still be here." She sits. She breathes in and out once, twice, again. She is not sure what shape here will be tomorrow. She is sure the word still has a spine. In a room with no windows, the auctioneer closes the ledger and rests a gloved hand on the cover and looks up as if someone spoke. He smiles, not unkindly, and says, "Let us begin. All sales are final."
Thank you for listening to The Storyteller's Moon. If this story touched you, scared you, or kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps the stories alive, and I can't wait to share the next one with you under the moonlight. Until then, may your nights be safe and your dreams unforgettable.